Rival Sports Pod, covering the New York sports scene and behind the scenes, including the Buffalo Bills, New York Jets, New York Mets, and everything else in New York sports worth your precious time. And now here's Joe Pastor and Glenn Ferretti.
All right. Hello, everybody. Welcome. And we have a special guest on today. We have Gio with us. We're going to get to a whole bunch of topics, especially something we haven't talked about much so far, and that's going to be a little bit of NBA.
Welcome, Gio.
Sounds good. Thanks. Happy to be here to join you guys today on this Sunday.
Beautiful.
Yeah, but I think the first thing I think to talk about is the big Buffalo Bills news, is Leslie Frazier stepping down.
Yeah.
How do you feel about that?
So after the season, I guess as a lot of fans, we were kind of waiting to see if something was going to happen there. Nothing really happened, and then at the combine, I was pretty surprised to hear that he wanted to step away for the season. To be honest, I'm surprised that it happened so late. I'm not surprised that it actually happened because I feel like I don't know, after a couple of years, the same message can kind of get a little stale in the locker room and whatnot. So hopefully, I don't know. It seems like it's looking like Sean McDermott's going to take over and might be calling the plays himself. But with changes coming, you can see now Leslie Frazier leaving, possibly Jordan Poyer is going to be gone. Tremaine Edmonds is going to probably be gone too, and they're going to end up getting priced out. So it could be a different looking type of defense this year.
Yeah, and at least it's at like a good timing for that in terms of whoever's going to be calling the shots is going to know what they're dealing with, as opposed to it being too late. Because there's no way you bring Edmonds back. He's probably going to get somewhere between 17 and 20 million. Unless you were really going to use him maybe more in an edge rusher role. But like with what the Bills have invested in their defensive line already, I don't know how you possibly justify that with the other things that need to be addressed.
Right. It seems like you guys are okay with it, though, which I'm kind of surprised because, I'd be a little nervous having to have my head coach have to call the defense. Plus, with all the success you've had the last couple of years with Leslie Frazier at the helm, I don't know. I'm a Jets fan. We lose one of our top coaches. I'd be a little more concerned about that, especially with McDermott kind of being, I wouldn't say on the hot seat, but, with losing the big games the last couple of years, it's just a lot of additional responsibility.
Well, yeah, and how much of that is on Leslie Frazier? Because there's been those playoff games against like the Colts and the Ravens where they dominated them. But you look at those other games, they're giving up 30 points a game every time they play the Chiefs, over 30 points, right, to the Bengals, 30 points to the Miami Dolphins. Right. Now, mind you, that was due to the situation the Bills were in at that time. And then they did bring in Al Holcomb as this like special defensive consultant / assistant coach. So I wonder what role he's going to take in. And it's kind of like the McDermott thing too, where he holds the cards close to the chest, where we might not really know exactly what's going on.
It's like training camp. Yeah.
So what did Leslie Frazier use as a reason? Like why is he stepping down?
I don't think he gave it was I guess it was just personal time away from the game, I guess. That's from what I've been hearing. But as a Bills fan, I feel like a lot of Bills fans that was the thing. Like regular season wise, we were good on defense. But what stuck with us was those playoff games when we're giving up more than 30 points. And then we're all looking around like, what is going on? Like in the biggest of games, it seems like the defensive game plan, it just doesn't stand well. It is not showing up. The guys aren't showing up in the big games. So,
right. Yeah, we talked a lot about how much impact Von Miller had this year compared to the defense. But yeah, it was definitely other guys that didn't step up in the big games. But I think we got to really figure out, is it just a scheme thing or was it really, I guess, a coach related thing?
Yeah. Well, I guess we're gonna have to wait and see. What happens. I guess the other problem I would have with Leslie Frazier's defense is the tackling. It seems like we miss a lot of tackles. The numbers were good. Like I was looking at like the stats over his 6 years. They were like third fewest points. They were number one in yards per game, passing yards per game, passing touchdowns allowed, and they were second in interceptions and turnovers. So I mean, they definitely put up a lot of big numbers, but it's kind of like going back to what Gio said when it counted. In the playoffs, we saw a completely different story
Right.
from Leslie Frazier defense.
Right. Yeah, and you mentioned Poyer. I heard him talking a little bit about he wants some tax-free money in some other states, wants a little warmer weather. He sounds like me, dude. I'm at 42 now, so I went down to South Florida a couple weeks ago, and I know exactly how that guy feels. So it doesn't surprise me, but I mean, obviously he thanked Buffalo for all his time. I wonder if they're going to really make a late push at him to try to get him to stay in Buffalo, but it seems like his mind's kind of made up to go somewhere else.
Yeah, and I think he feels slighted too that Hyde got the extension
Yeah.
previously and he didn't. His wife has been very vocal. He's got like the Mahomes ish family that likes to put their 2 cents in, and she seems not happy about it. And as so many of us know, happy wife, happy life. So that I think that's another factor, going in. And I understand why Poyer would feel slighted because, like, I mean, this guy drove in a van with his family to play in a game with small children. So, I could see that from that dedication. He's like, "Where's mine, guys? Look what I'm putting out for the team."
Mm-hmm.
Right. I don't know if I'd bring up Mahomes. Jackson Mahomes is in a little trouble these days. I saw.
Oh,
What do you think?
jeez.
What do you think
I
about
saw that
that?
video.
Oh, there's a
That
video
Oh
was
of it.
yeah,
so. Yeah, I saw it on TMZ. It was I couldn't even look. I had to turn away. It was that bad.
yeah,
Oh,
Like,
really?
what is wrong with this kid?
yeah. He
Yeah,
was.
he like forcibly just grabbed like
Oh,
the woman's face and like started kissing her and stuff, and she kind of like get off me. He did it a second time, 2 times. It was
Yeah,
bad. It was
yeah.
that
bad.
guy really knows how to make headlines. This one,
Uh,
not for the right reasons though.
yeah.
Yeah, you have to see the video. It doesn't look good for him.
Yeah, it sounds like you might not want to see it. I hear what you're
No.
saying. It's way even worse than back. Remember the Joe Namath back in the day when he wanted to kiss the reporter, but at least he
Yep.
asked and didn't just do it. And it's kind of feel bad for Patrick Mahomes because he did nothing wrong, but
Yeah.
the story's always headlines Mahomes' brother. And I guess that's part of it when you're famous, that your family does something and you're attached to them in sports or politics or what have you. But yeah, that's probably something that's not going to go away.
No.
But does he do that because he feels like, hey, I'm Patrick Mahomes' brother. I'm this. I guess he's a big TikTok star. I can do whatever the hell I want. You know what I'm saying? I'm like, if you're not in the spotlight, is he really doing this kind of stuff?
Yeah. No.
So
Definitely not.
I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. I think
It's
you're
just
right.
weird,
I
man.
know it's been an interesting week for just videos in general. Obviously, you got John Morant with all
Oh,
his crazy
jeez.
videos, flashing guns on Instagram, and it's like I forget. I was listening to someone earlier, and they were talking about like all these like camps and sessions they do with all these players and athletes like ahead of time. It's like, dude, they really should be doing more on just like life coaching and social
Yeah,
media
yeah.
exposure and things like that. I mean, these guys just have the world at their freaking oyster, and they're like throwing it all
hmm
away. I mean, it's crazy.
hmm I agree with it, and with him. What kills me is I never saw like him coming up like in college and high school. There's no signs of this kind of lifestyle that you're promoting now. So I'm like, dude, don't wait till you get to the NBA when you have the $20 million contract, when you got the big mansion, to when we going and flashing guns and throwing up gang signs in the club and all that stuff.
Yeah. Well, I heard.
Like, I mean, bro,
Oh, God.
You got to wonder to some extent, like, is it, and I don't know too much about the situation, is it like people trying to pretend to be something they're not?
yeah,
Because I
yeah,
think we see that, Gio, a lot with young people
yeah,
trying
yep.
to pretend to be something you're not
hmm
because they think it's cool, or whatever.
Yeah. Well, I think the
Yeah, you do forget he's still
Yeah, I
pretty
think
young
the
too.
initial incident
He's a
was
young guy.
like his mom was like unhappy with an employee at like a finish line, and she was at the
Mm.
mall and called Ja, and basically showed up with like 9 people. And I was like, they're like, if you ever show up with 9 people to like the mall here, like there's probably not a lot of good things happening. It was like a
No,
17-year
Yeah,
old employee, so that
Yeah,
That
yeah,
was just like the beginning of the incident, and then he was on like Instagram live at like a club or something with his shirt off, and I was like, yeah, I don't know what club he's at with his shirt off, but he had a gun when he was flashing on there, like after he's already dealing
yeah,
with this incident. So I think he has been suspended for a couple
yes,
games or
yeah.
something, but he certainly,
Hmm.
yeah, he's certainly got to figure it out because he's an insane talent. I obviously love watching the guy, but yeah, they get surrounded by the wrong people, man. It can go off the rails pretty quickly.
That's true. You got to remember those. Some of these guys may be your friends, but they're not where you are. They're still back. They're back home in the city and in the wherever they are in the town. They're not with you in Memphis playing in the NBA. So you got to kind of change the way you move once you get into the league, and that's what you like. You're saying like they need to have like seminars and stuff like teaching these guys like, hey, once you get these big contracts, you get into the league, you got to start changing like the way you move, your lifestyle, the people you're around and stuff, because the camera's always going to be
Yep.
on you, no matter where you go.
Yeah, it's tough. I remember 22-year-old me as well. So if I had if I had $20 million, probably would have been a little
Yeah.
different as
Yeah.
well. But yeah,
Hmm.
it's a tough situation. You feel bad for the guy. He definitely needs better guidance and better support system.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think we're maybe probably better off we didn't have this kind of social media when we were young people.
That's
Yeah, I
true.
know.
That's
Yeah,
true.
that's true. Always a camera on you too.
But the NBA, is kind of reaching that time there, and we got a few teams on a run right now, including a New York team, the New York Knicks, playing well.
Hmm.
What do you think's going on there, Gio?
Hey, listen, the other night, remember I'm a Miami Heat fan. I watched Julius Randle hit that
Game winner.
three, that game winner three. I just threw. I was on my iPad watching. I just wanted to throw it against the wall. Like, there's no way he hit that shot. But they're playing well. It made sense the Jalen Brunson signing because you needed that other scorer to kind of like take some of the load off of Julius
Yep.
Randle. So and Tom Thibodeau, he's a pretty good coach to lead a young team like that. So hopefully, if I can see, maybe they can, because did they make the playoffs last year or was it the
Yeah, the
year
year
before
I
before.
think
This
it was the year
against
before.
yeah.
Atlanta? Right, against Atlanta in the first round. So hopefully they can get through the first round this
Yep.
year. I think that would be a big step to be able to break through the first round of the playoffs. So I mean, they got a pretty good team. Julius Randle's playing well. I like Jalen Brunson. They got good pieces around them
Yeah,
too.
yeah,
R.J.
I
Barrett.
feel like he gets some unfair criticism too, as well, because he's really like the
Yeah,
third option on the team, and like
yeah,
well, New
yeah.
York fans are tough as well. Like they expect him to be, like the number one scorer, all these things. It's like, dude, he's 22
Hmm.
years old. He came into the league young,
Yeah,
and he's really the third option. Like he's not getting all the shots. Brunson and Randall are taking
yeah.
the majority of the shots there.
Well, and how hungry are New York Knicks fans? Because I mean, it's been about 25 years. Like when I was in college with the Van Gundy teams with obviously Ewing and Charlie
Mm.
Ward, and I loved Allen Houston, Larry Johnson, all these guys later in their career. But that was probably the last time that they had a really strong, squad, and so that was a long
Yeah,
time ago.
Carmelo Anthony a little bit.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
the Carmelo
yeah.
teams.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Did he ever make it to
some
the
good years.
playoffs with the
Yeah, they
Knicks?
made it to the playoffs. Yeah, but
Yeah,
yeah, they didn't do any damage.
didn't get out the
Yeah,
first round.
Okay.
it's interesting. It's an interesting group. I mean, Brunson signing was obviously huge. Like you said, he's been a tremendous. So right now they're actually slated, if the season were to end right now, to play Cleveland, which would be interesting because they're playing against Donovan Mitchell, who we obviously wanted on a
Trying to
Knicks.
sign.
So
Yeah,
that we could be going against a
yeah,
guy that that he grew up like he's a huge Mets fan. So we thought we'd lock him in, and then the second round could wind up being against Milwaukee, the top team in the league. So it's not going to be easy for our Knicks, that's for sure. We're
Yeah, the Bucks are playing well.
Man, they're both 9-1
oh
in their
yeah.
last 10 games. The Knicks and Bucks.
Hmm. So
Giannis is. Go ahead.
if you were going to say, like, to kind of any casual, fans out there, a lot of people watch predominantly the NFL. You're in that time of the year, no baseball, no NFL. Who's the exciting NBA teams you think that a casual fan might enjoy really watching right now?
I'd say the Bucks. To a certain extent, I'd say Dallas Mavericks, especially Luka Doncic.
Hmm.
Watching him play, it's pretty exciting. The shots he makes, the kind of passes he makes, and he's not. It's funny the way he's built. He's not like this super athletic, like built guy. You know, he's kind of chubby,
Yeah,
kind of
yeah. He drinks beer
Yeah.
after the game.
tall, big forward.
Yeah.
Yeah, but he's
Like,
like he's a killer, man. He's strong. He can get to the rim. He's an amazing passer and stuff like that. So I'd say him. Even like, of course, I'd say John Morant too. But he's having his issues right now. He's pretty exciting to watch. Phoenix just traded for Kevin
Right.
Durant,
yes.
so that might be another team too. People are gonna start watching before the playoffs, next couple months before the playoffs start. So yeah.
Yeah, I saw he just played his first game with Phoenix just recently as well. I saw he gave his jersey to a kid. I was like, damn. I was like,
Hmm.
that's quite a get for that kid. His first game
Right.
worn
Oh wow.
jersey from the game with the Sun. So that's pretty
Yeah.
sweet.
It's got to suck to be a Nets fan.
Right now,
You
yeah, it was cool
know?
for a little while.
That fire sale they had.
Well, I think they said they. Go
I'm
ahead.
telling you, that is bad front office, organizational staff, and like control, all that type of stuff. You go from coach to coach. You fire Steve Nash. Who was there before? Jason Kidd was there for a while. Like you had a whole bunch of guys who just couldn't get on the same page with the players. On top of that, I'm not gonna lie, Kyrie Irving and Kevin Durant, they can be headaches for teams because they're really not like alpha kind of leaders of men, really, like to lead your team. So you put both of them together. James Harden was there for what, 6 months, half
Yeah, I
a
think they
year?
said they only played
Hmm.
10. I thought it was incredible. They
Yeah,
only played 10 games together. That's the
10
three of
games
them.
together.
Like, how is that
Yeah.
possible? You know?
Injuries, and that's another thing. On top of that, these guys they're known for getting hurt throughout a regular season. So that was a problem. They couldn't stay healthy. They couldn't stay together. Whole thing just falls apart. And then at that point, the owner just like, hey, you guys don't want to be here. Get
It's kind
out.
of interesting you said that though
Let's
about
go.
Durant because I kind of feel the same way. It's like he's probably the best player in the league, but I don't think anyone would
Hmm.
consider him like the leader of all those Golden State teams.
Yeah,
He was kind of
yeah.
like the best player, best scorer, but Steph really was the leader of the team.
Yes.
So
Leader.
maybe
Yeah.
him and Kyrie just don't have the leadership ability that really kind of threw that team for a loop, and they needed to go other places because Phoenix, they're really run by Devin Booker, but really Chris Paul's probably the leader of that team from a
Yeah.
veteran
Yeah.
standpoint, and Luca's the man in Dallas. So maybe that's
Hmm.
you might have hit on something that they just don't have the leadership abilities.
And that's for a while. Kyrie Irving was resenting when he left Cleveland. He resented LeBron. He was making all these comments about how when he first got to New Jersey, how he finally has another player who can, like, quote unquote, be like a game closer, scorer, just like him on that kind of level. And that's kind of throwing a slight at LeBron as if like this guy's not a
Yeah,
four-time NBA champion.
Hmm.
And now, like years later, Kyrie finally like apologized for all of that, and like end up realizing like, hey, being a leader, a number one guy on the team is not
yeah.
easy. And you had something good with LeBron, and you just realized that you finally realized that, hey, I actually might have made a mistake, like leaving him. Like I had something good going, and that's why he was trying to get to the Lakers, but the New Jersey owner was like, "There's no way I'm sending you to
Yeah,
LA and giving you what you want to go play with LeBron."
yeah, yeah.
Now you mentioned people getting injured. I wonder, like, if that gives any more credence to like players taking days off. I know Charles Barkley was pretty critical, of these guys taking, these quote unquote rest days and such. And I know it happened recently when Golden State went to Cleveland. Being
Hmm.
in the area, I knew
Yeah,
people that went there and they
yeah.
rested their stars. That game, and I know that the fans were disappointed, but I don't know. Maybe there is something to it, resting your guys. Although in the heart of me says you're making all that money, you have access, like Barkley said, you have access to the best medical staffs ever.
Hmm.
Um, get your butt out there and play.
Yeah, I agree, man. I mean, especially for these smaller markets like Cleveland, Orlando, Minnesota, like like just cities like that. When those teams come, families are bringing their kids out to go see these guys play. They're paying their money, and then you find out, oh, LeBron's not playing tonight. Kawhi Leonard's not playing tonight. Stephen Curry's sitting out. Kevin Durant's sitting out for what? And there's no real injury on the injury report. Load management? Come on. Kawhi Leonard, I feel like he's the ringleader of that whole thing. He's the one who really
Yeah.
started it. And he's still doing it this season too. And it's probably one of the reasons why they're probably not even at the top of their conference right now, because he just hasn't been playing on all the games where he could have been actually like been taking part in playing these games. So yeah, I agree with Barkley
Yeah, I saw
100%.
Anthony Edwards came out about that too. He's like, dude, we're playing basketball,
Mm-hmm.
man. He's like, this is ridiculous. These people come out. You should never be able to sit when you're on the road. Like if if
Yeah,
LeBron's going to
yeah,
Dallas one time, like you can't sit out that game, just for load management. If anything's going to happen, like it has to be at a home game where there's 42 opportunities to see LeBron. But dude, we took our whole family to see the Cavs a few years back when LeBron was there. And then,
mm-hmm.
it was like $235 a ticket. And like, there was
Yeah,
then questions that were coming up that like he might sit out. And I know how those people feel, because those tickets will go down to like $30 a game if LeBron sits out. Like
yeah,
there's a lot
yeah.
of impact on that happening. There's plenty of days off. Like even you could play half a game, there's a lot of things that you could do, but they shouldn't be sitting out without an injury. I agree with that 100%. Yeah. It's funny you mentioned talking about this little chubby guy, Luka Doncic. I don't know if anybody watched this, but the other night, Syracuse basketball had their 20th anniversary of the national championship game, and they had like a watch party.
Mm-hmm.
It was on Friday night prior to Saturday when they were going to retire Hakeem Warwick and Jerry McNamara's jersey. So they had Melo, they had Jerry McNamara, they had Hakeem, they had Quet Dwaney, they had all those guys watching the game. And he goes, Hakeem Warwick told a story about, he's like, yeah, we got these two like freshmen coming in, and he's like, we want you to kind of take them off and play a couple pickup games with them before and see what they're all about, if they have anything. And he
Yeah.
said Melo showed up, and he goes, no, nothing against Melo. He takes care of his body now. He goes, but I don't know if you remember Melo at Syracuse. He goes, he was a little pudgy guy, and showing up here, and you guys expected us to be like, these are the guys that are going to lead us to the national championship. And he goes, after that pickup game, he's like, we were like, all right, we got something special here. But yeah, those guys, man, it's amazing. If Luka Doncic got in great shape, it'd be amazing how incredible he could even be before.
Yeah.
He likes his beers after the game now. Yeah,
Likes his beers.
Yeah. But Syracuse is in a lot of trouble. Definitely has taken a huge nosedive. It looked like they had a little hope after beating NC State. I think we were talking about that last time, Glenn, and then losing all these games by like 20 points. It's got to start to scratch your head. And I've always been a big Jim Boeheim supporter. Is it time?
right. I mean, the zone is certainly time for that to go. And he's not going to change the way he does things. We talked about like some of these NBA players, like one of the big common denominator is a lot of them can just shoot now. Like they don't shoot from 20 feet, they shoot from 27 feet. Damian Lillard's a big guy like that. But most of these college kids now, they live or die by the three. So when you're playing zone and just giving open 3-pointers all day long, these kids can shoot a lot better than they used to. We're getting destroyed.
And it even seems people are getting open so much quicker. It used to be like 2 or 3 passes, they'd find someone in the baseline or reverse the ball, and they'd find the open shooter. Now it seemed like, was it the Boston? I don't remember what game it was, but they were just one pass and they were hitting people in the wing wide open with just one pass.
Yeah.
That's one thing that also, besides the fact that they're much better shooters now, is how easily people are getting wide open.
Yep.
And getting these looks, because the college three is not a very far shot.
No.
No, not at all.
How long has he been the head
It's like
coach at
42
Syracuse?
years or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Wow.
crazy, but it seems like the game. Even just watching him in some of these press conferences again, like he's just such a grumpy old man, and like these kids, dude, I don't think they relate as much to it anymore, And I hate to say it, like I'm not saying the discipline is not good for them, because a lot of them speak to, it
Mm-hmm.
really helped them grow as a person, but there's also like a level of like kind of getting along with them as well that I don't think he relates to his players as much as he used to, and it's really costing them. They're not really getting any huge recruits as much as they used to, and it seems like everybody else is just leaving after 1 year. That's the big thing. It's like we're going to probably lose our best player again this year, and and it's just going to continue to be a trickle down effect. You can't keep up like that. I know it's tough times.
Might be time to go
Yeah, I mean
younger,
they
huh?
got McNamara, they
Yeah,
got
but
other people.
it's.
Yeah,
More
you
relatable
just got to
coach.
get people that relate. I think better.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Do you think McNamara's ready? Because that's my big question: is like who takes over? Because I remember when Paul Pasqualoni was coaching football, they ran him out of town because he was stuck to that freeze option, which was kind of antiquated, like the 2-3 zone. But they were finishing with winning records, going to bowl games, and for the most part, Syracuse football has really struggled and has been completely irrelevant. So it's like, if we get rid of Boeheim, is it possible things get even worse?
Yeah, but I mean, what I would say is we've not been successful the last few years, so it's not like he's taken over. Be taking over the Syracuse of old that makes the tournament every year, makes deep runs. Like we're not even
Mhm.
making the tournament the last few years. I mean, the program's definitely on a downward spiral right now.
Oh, for sure.
So I don't know. They got to bring someone in. I mean, yeah, maybe it's not. We just continue to promote from within. Because honestly, I really don't think that they should be playing zone for the next 20 years. And I'm afraid that if we promote from within, that we're going to keep that same mindset. They really need to bring someone in with some fresh ideas. I mean, the game's different, dude. You got to get up and down the court, be able to recruit players for 1 year, understanding that they're going to move on after a year or two max, and really build from just a revolving door of talent.
Well, I wonder though if they did, let's say, give someone like McNamara the opportunity. I think it's a lot easier to tell him, uh, we're interested in you, but there's no zone anymore. Like that's gone. I mean, maybe you could work it in a little bit, but that has to be, I think, part of the negotiation if they were to promote from within. Whereas Beheim is, so old and curmudgeonly and set in his ways. There's no way the zone goes away. I think maybe at best, maybe they play at 3-2 or some other type of zone.
Yeah, I would say he'd probably be gone then because that's probably all he knows. Like he doesn't, it's all he
Yeah.
played and that's all he's coached for the last. So you could say, hey, switch it up to a man to man defense, but all of his coaching experience is coaching a zone and, playing zone defense. So they probably would have to go outside the program at that point, which I don't think that's the worst thing in the world. We're like the one of the few teams that just won't make any changes. I mean, we've had the same thing for 40 something years, so it's hard to get that perspective from outside of Syracuse. But it really sucks not making the tournament every year. It's a different mindset to get used to. I mean,
Yeah, it
I've been
does suck.
watching these games actually even lately, and we're getting crushed. But really, the allure of like the Big East was something that was so much better than what we're seeing now. Anyway, like I mean,
Yeah.
even if it's
Yeah.
Duke, North Carolina, I really don't care as much as like a Syracuse Georgetown or a Syracuse UConn game used to be. I mean, those games were incredible.
Or when St. John's used to be good,
Yeah. Yeah, it's different. Like they're like, oh, we're getting hyped up for the NCAA turn or the ACC tournament, and I'm like, yeah, it's great. We're gonna play like Wake Forest and Clemson. I don't know. It was way different when it was Big East basketball. I felt like that was so. Football changed that
Hmm.
though. The money's in football. We know that.
Absolutely.
What else, big guy?
You got anything else you want to talk about, Gio?
I mean, you guys have any thoughts about the quarterback situation coming up in NFL free agency and in the draft?
Yeah,
What the
yeah.
Jets might be
Hopefully we get
doing.
Aaron Rodgers. I don't know. I don't know what he's going to say coming out of his dark shadows or not, but I think he's going to. I think he's going to make some announcements on McAfee on Tuesday. It seems like he breaks all his
Yeah.
news there, and he's been kind of hinting that he's made his decision, and we'll probably find some things out. I mean, you guys know, when you go through years and years of a struggle, I mean, the Jets are the longest team without making the playoffs. Um, we have no quarterback, but we got amazing talent like surrounding it right now. And I don't know if it's going to cost as much as everybody thinks to get this guy, because there's only a couple years left on him. It doesn't seem like a lot of teams are in on like the Aaron Rodgers sweepstakes, maybe LA, or not LA, sorry,
Yeah.
Las Vegas. So I don't know if there's going to be this huge bidding war, but he'd be my number one guy. I'm actually surprised Derek Carr is just kind of sitting around waiting for the Jets to make a decision. Typically, it's like where the player holds all the cards. We're like, all right, they're not making me an offer.
Mhm.
Like they want somebody else. I'm going to go figure something else out. But
Yeah.
that shoe hasn't dropped. So as a Jets fan, I'm kind of knocking on wood, saying, hey, let's see how the Aaron Rodgers thing plays out. And if not, seems like Derek Carr will just sit around and wait.
And
Mhm.
wait, yeah.
Well, I mean, he's visited the Saints and the Panthers. So I mean, I don't know how intriguing of destinations those are at this time.
Yeah, but I'm sure.
The Jets seems like
The
it would be the
thing,
best team.
the thing I'd say about the NFC South is there's no quarterback in that whole division. So if I'm Derek Carr or even Aaron Rodgers, maybe I don't know, I'd be intrigued about like maybe going to the Saints or the Panthers because there's no real like big competition stopping me from winning that division if I'm the top quarterback in that division. So I don't know, but I think the Jets obviously is the best top destination. That's probably why he's still waiting to see what Aaron Rodgers does. But most likely, if Aaron Rodgers goes to the Jets, I could see him going to New
Yep.
Orleans
Yeah, even Carolina, you bring up. They
and
got your
signing
boy
there.
Frank Reich, right? They
Carolina,
got
yeah.
your boy.
Frank Reich, yeah.
So I mean, yeah,
DJ
yeah. I
Moore.
mean, he's good at coaching offense, though. It's just is he patient enough? Because that's obviously probably going to take a couple years to work itself out. But that's not to me. That's not a bad spot. New Orleans. I don't really know what the excitement is about them right now of why you would want to go play there. I don't know. I think Carolina seems like a better destination. I love it that the Jets is like the number one destination now for people. It's crazy, but
Yeah.
well, and possibly L.A. or Las Vegas. I mean, that's obviously a big option for Rodgers, but
Both of those teams. Sorry, but both of those teams, though, going to the Jets and going to the Raiders, you're jumping into some pretty stiff competitions in your division and your conference,
That's true. Yeah.
as opposed to what you brought up about going to the NFC South. You're pretty much the big dog. Whereas you got Josh Allen in one division and Mahomes and everybody else and
right,
out west.
right. Maybe the Broncos get better again
Yeah.
with the new coach.
Sean Payton out there, yeah.
Now I'll give Tua his shout out on his weapons. I've been a little hard on the Dolphins.
Yeah. Well, certainly not
and
Mac Jones,
deservedly
though.
so.
I think he's worse than every quarterback in the
Until
AFC East. If the Jets land one of those two guys like Mac Jones, I think instantly goes to 4. I mean, everyone wants to paint him as like the next Brady, but I'm like, this guy, he doesn't have the arm strength. Like, I don't know, he doesn't have it. What do you think, Gio? You're shaking your.
listen, his rookie year when I couldn't stand it, all the ESPN, the Teddy Bruschies of the world were just announcing, when I see him throw, he gives off that Tom Brady feeling. I'm like, come on, guys, that's the greatest quarterback of all time. They don't just fall off the tree like that. I don't care
Right.
what you're saying. He's not Tom
Yeah.
Brady. He's not.
Yeah.
He's mediocre. He's a Chad
Hey.
Pennington.
I'm sorry, I don't even think he's as good as Chad Pennington, but yeah, I know what you're saying though.
But he's on that kind of level, like a Alex Smith type of quarterback, and I think Alex Smith is better than him.
Yeah, me too.
But just that kind of tier of quarterback. That's what I view him as.
Right.
So he doesn't scare you.
No.
So what do you think?
He's more of a high end backup.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what do you think? Obviously, the Bills don't need a quarterback. What do you think the Bills should do come the draft?
Offensive line. Now, I don't know, like, obviously free agency happens first. So I don't know if they'll look to upgrade it there, but me personally, like, we all want the big flashy first round pick. But at this point, where we are, like I don't. If we get a guard or even a right tackle, I'm all set. I'm all for that. I know some people are talking receiver and even running back. Who's that running back from
Bijan Robinson.
Bijan Rod? Yeah, Bijan
Yep.
Robinson. Everyone's saying he's pretty special. So if we took him, my whole thing is you'd have to make some changes in free agency
Mhm.
if you're going to take a running back in the first round.
Yep. Well,
Yeah.
we were on
So
with
I
The
need
other
upgrades on
yeah,
the
we were
line.
on with
the other
Darlington.
guy
It
I
was
see getting
Barkley, right? He was talking about, the Bills, trade for Barkley, or why
yeah.
didn't they trade for him? Because it seems like, and just like you say, Bijan Robinson, like people draft him in the first round, but not many of them get re-signed. Like the Cowboys are probably one of the only teams that re-signed him, and it's wound up being a terrible re-signing of Ezekiel Elliott. So I don't know. I'm not a big proponent. I mean, of drafting. Look what the Jets did. They drafted Brees Hall in the second round, and
Mm,
looks like to be an absolute stud. It just seems like you don't need to draft first round running backs ever.
And well, look at what happened to the Chiefs. They drafted Clyde Edwards-Helaire in the first round,
Yep.
and then they also drafted Pacheco in the seventh round or sixth round, whatever it was, and he's clearly the better player.
Yep.
yeah,
So yeah,
yep.
I mean, I maybe Darlington made me a little more open to the idea of running the football more and taking a little pressure off Josh. Because I think after the season, I said everything should be on the table, including coaching changes. So maybe that's something. But I'm leaning more towards I'd like to see the offensive line. I saw Osiris Torrance from Florida, the guard, being mocked
Hmm.
to them because one weakness of the Bills is they put all this money into the defensive line, but not the offensive line, especially the guards. They're bringing in all these 1 year contracts for the guards.
Yeah,
Maybe you
yep,
invest some money on a
yeah.
guard like Torrance, who's a mauler, and
Hmm.
then maybe go a little more economical on your running back, or even a later round steal, because even Cook looked pretty
I
solid,
agree.
but he was projected pretty high too.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. We've had Singletary, Moss, James Cook. You traded for Naheem Hines. I mean, have any of them really worked out? Moss is gone. Singletary is most likely gone.
Mhm.
What Hines got 1 year left on his deal from the trade, and we really didn't even use him when he in the offense once we traded for him. And James Cook, obviously, he's coming to his second year, so I'd be ready. I wouldn't be mad if he's the lead back going into the season, honestly. But my whole thing is just the protection of the line. I saw stuff in the Bengals game that just a like Roger Saffold, nice guy. I don't know how he made the Pro Bowl
Yeah.
as an alternate because he was terrible this year. I saw plays just as soon as the ball snapped, not even a second. Saffold at the left guard position, whoever the lineman was for the Bengals, just runs right, just tosses him back with one arm, and he's on the ground. And Allen is scrambling to the right for his life. And that was a problem we saw during the season was Allen. You could see him even when there wasn't pressure, he was like already anticipating that. Oh, I might have to already scramble out to the right now and try to force to make certain plays because I'm not getting enough protection during these games. So I mean, offensive line is that's big to me, man. You've gotta fix the guard positions. I think even also you have to bring in some competition for Spencer Brown because he struggled a bit last year too. So I'm like, as far as I know, some people were saying to at least release Mitch Morse. I personally don't agree with that. I'd try to rework his contract. I'd keep him and Dawkins in the same place, but as far as the two guard positions and right tackle, hey, I'm all for changes there,
Yep.
man.
Yeah.
And that was the scary thing, was listening to Bean speak so highly about Spencer Brown in one of the press conferences about all the potential he has, and we haven't really seen his full potential because he didn't get a full training camp. And but then again, I wonder too with how much of it is smoke and mirrors of maybe they're just talking him up to not give other teams the idea that they are going after somebody else, which was kind of one of the points
Yeah,
I wanted to bring up with Leslie Frazier, with some of the wording being used with that, was when he said he's taking a break from football this year and he's going to return to coaching next year. He didn't say he was going to return to the Buffalo Bills next year. The exact word he used was he's going to return to coaching
Yeah.
in 2024. So it might not be with a member of the Buffalo Bills. I wonder if that was a way for him to thank you for your service. You need a break. Here's your way to gracefully step down. Because not only the smoke and
Without
mirrors, but that's
saying we fired you.
mm-hmm.
Yeah, I agree.
Seems
Because there's no way. It doesn't matter. You say he come back next year. There's no way he comes back to the Bills next year. There's no way. Once you move on to another, another person, another system, or at least another coach, they're not going to bring him back.
right.
I
Yeah,
don't
no,
see
I
it
agree with
happening.
that.
The
Yeah.
defense would have to be a train wreck
Yeah.
to make that decision, I think.
Right.
So yeah, I agree with that.
Yep. Well, I think you hit the nail on the head. Offensive, defensive line is where football games are won. So we're in the same
Hmm.
boat. I think the Jets just brought back Dwayne Brown. We just re-signed him, and we got a draft lineman as well. It's our only
Mm-hmm.
shot to move forward. You got to protect your guy. But yeah, we'll be doing a whole
Gotcha.
draft breakdown segment or show coming up soon. So this will be great.
All right,
Now,
man. I'll go ahead.
question. One more question.
Yeah.
Would you be, as far as defensive linemen, right? I know Vaughn's still hurt. We got Rousseau on the other side. I don't think they're going to re-sign Ed Oliver after this year. Would you be surprised if they trade him this offseason?
No, you'd save some cap
Okay.
space as well in there, and I think they are pretty strong at the tackle, position. So no, I would not be surprised at all because I actually heard they had an offer for Tremaine Edmonds last year that Seattle offered him a first rounder for
Well,
Edmonds.
they should have done it then.
Wow.
I
Yeah,
think
so
teams
I
get
think
so
they
caught up in this is like, you feel like you had a really good season, so you want to try to like keep everything pretty much together. But
Hmm.
sometimes like that's the
Hmm.
detriment. Like these are maybe some of the changes that like need to be made to get over the hump. Like I mean the Jets obviously we weren't
Yeah.
like a winning team, but like we were literally like begging to bring back Braxton Berrios as, like a slot receiver, after 2 years ago after that season, and they gave him a contract, and he's done nothing. Like he literally did nothing last year, and it's just like, you know what? Maybe these decisions, like if someone's offering you a first rounder for Ed Oliver, like take that. Like you kind of seen a couple years of what you
Yeah.
got, and he's probably going
Yeah.
to move on in free agency anyway. Like take advantage of those offers. That's how the
mhm.
Jets are rebuilding. Like we traded Jamal Adams when everyone said don't trade Jamal Adams, and it's wound up turning into like Sauce Gardner, Garrett Wilson, guys like that. It's
Yeah,
you're not going to
yeah,
stay.
because I think
You're not going to be able to pay everyone anyway.
correct. It's like one blueprint. I think the Chiefs revealed. Look at they had what they have 8 or 10 rookies or something like that starting. Was if you have a
Hmm.
quarterback not on a rookie contract, that's one way you win. Well, how do you build those rookies? Is getting a lot of draft picks,
Yeah.
to do so and plug in those spots with guys like, oh, I could take Osiris Torrance in the first round, and then I have some more. I have some more draft picks later to maybe add a wide receiver, add a running back, maybe add a pass catching tight end, whatever the case may be, or add a replacement for Ed Oliver that's much cheaper.
Yeah. And there's not a lot of like Rams
I
examples
agree.
of winning the Super Bowl where like you truly like got it in free agency, right? Like usually it's players through your system that have been drafted and have gotten better.
Yeah.
Like it's like I could think of like Jacksonville, but their quarterback is drafted, but they did a nice job in free agency, and then the Rams the previous year. But you look at all these other
Mm-hmm.
years, it's pretty much the team is drafted, with a few
Drafted
pieces. Like the
players.
Bills
Yeah.
are good because they got Allen in the
Hmm.
draft. They traded for Diggs, but Gabe Davis, some of these other guys, have all been part of the Bills system. You can't just it's very
Mm-hmm.
tough to just build from just paying people. Yankees,
Yeah,
And
and
you
if
see it now. You see it now with the Rams where they're trying to trade Jalen Ramsey too. Like they've got to get rid of a lot of that money, a lot of the big contracts, because now they're kind of stuck.
yeah, that's been like the third silent Jets talk. Like, what if somebody came to you and said, "Hey, we'll trade Matt Stafford for 2 years"? Like, why would they really want to hold on to him in LA?
Yeah.
You know, it's not being
How
talked
much more
about
does he
as
even want to
much,
play?
but exactly, you know, with him and Rogers, got to be
Right.
about the same,
Yeah.
right? I mean, Rogers is older than Matt Stafford.
Yeah.
I think Stafford's probably 35, 36. I think Rogers is
Yeah.
38, something like that.
I wonder how much more of a beating Stafford has taken playing in Detroit all those years.
Yeah.
That's true.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
That's true.
Yeah, it was cool. Well, anything else, Gio? We appreciate you hopping on, man. This was fun.
Yeah, this was real fun, man. I enjoyed it. I
Maybe
enjoyed it,
we'll
guys. Really
bring
appreciate
you
you guys
back
having me
during the
on.
NBA playoffs.
Yeah, for sure.
All right. Well, we'll talk to you
All
later
right,
on.
man. Well, you have a great day, and thanks for coming on.
Yeah. You
See
too.
ya.
Thanks, guys. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah,
So,
different perspective from an NBA guy. It's funny when you get
yeah.
passionate NBA talk compared to others. Just being in like this area, it's mostly Syracuse through and through because we're not as close to the Knicks and
Yep.
some of these other areas. But when there's fun talent like that question you asked, like it makes things exciting. And when the Knicks are hot, which they are right now, they're really fun to watch. So it'll be exciting to watch going down the stretch here.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm getting excited for baseball up here.
Oh yeah,
First off, Ronnie Mauricio going on the tear, coming into spring training. He's the Dominican MVP, um, hitting all these home runs in spring training.
yeah, and
It's
long
big.
home runs.
Yeah, it was 450 feet foot or something. One of them.
Yep, I mean all his Dominican like league highlights with his home runs. I mean these are mammoth shots that he's hitting. Um,
Mhm.
it's crazy though. I mean it's great, but it's like we have a lot of like third basemen all of a sudden.
Correct.
So some of these guys are going to have to find a way to play outfield, platoon at first,
Mhm.
do something like that. But I'd hate to see another Dom Smith, Pete Alonso situation. But
Yeah,
I think these guys are a little bit more, way more athletic than Dom. So I think they'll have the
absolutely.
ability, like Vientos and Mauricio and even Beatty, to be
Mhm.
able to kind of move around because we're going to need to get these guys on the field.
Yeah. So, I mean, Vientos is a pretty good athlete. He was a shortstop at one point early on. Definitely not an major league level or upper level shortstop, but I think that speaks to his athleticism. And then we
Yep.
also keep in mind like McNeil could play a lot of positions too. So I do like him at second, but I mean, you could also consider if Mauricio's that hot and he can't handle the outfield, maybe slide him there, or we have a very competent DH now as well,
Yep.
and to move guys around, play with the hot hand, which Buck has always seemed good at doing, was getting people playing time. People don't sit there and rot on the bench on a Buck Showalter team.
Yep.
The only criticism I would have is that sometimes he likes his veterans. What I don't want to see is Darren Ruff on that team. I want to see these athletic guys, especially with these new rules that seem that they're going to favor maybe a little more base stealing late in the game to have that speed available to you.
Yep. Yeah, no, definitely. I think you're right, and I think with Buck's experience, he has a great sense of like managing the players and being upfront with them about their expectations. So it's going to be interesting to see like who winds up making the original opening day roster, and who doesn't, and just the conversations that are had because I think there'll just be a lot of movement throughout the season,
Mm-hmm.
bringing people up, getting them some playing time. But like you said, he's not going to just bring somebody up to the major leagues and have them sit on the bench and rot away. Like
Mm-hmm.
these guys are going to continue to get action, and obviously Mauricio's still super young, and Vientos and those guys. So I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
My initial inclination would be it'd probably be Beatty and obviously Escobar as the main third baseman to start the season. But you never know. I mean, these guys are hot. I mean, Vientos had 2 bombs yesterday. Mauricio's obviously hot. So I don't know. A lot can change in the next few weeks before the season starts.
Yeah, especially with the entire infield going off to the World Baseball Classic, it's going to give these young guys a chance to play. He did mention, though, managing Mauricio's workload because he did play so much in the Dominican League. But still, be that as it may, you got plenty of other young guys to flash what they can do. I'd
No,
also
yeah, I love it.
wouldn't mind seeing. Okay, you want to send these guys down? Maybe you're sending them down and moving them around to see where else they could contribute, being a little more comfortable in the outfield. Because you got to be careful. You just can't assume, oh, I can move this guy to the left field and anybody could play there. Like Mets fans probably remember what happened when they tried that with Howard Johnson.
Yeah,
Didn't
yeah,
work out so
yeah.
well.
No, definitely not. Yeah, they've tried it with a few players. I think the Phillies tried it with Schwarber too, and he was an
Yeah.
absolute disaster in the outfield. And yeah, it's not as easy, but it's a good problem to have too many
Hmm.
players because we really haven't had that in a long time. So yeah, this is a cool time. Spring training, obviously, we got to see Verlander, got to see Scherzer a little bit, um, and then Senga pitching today. All obviously only pitching a couple innings, but we're not too. I mean, obviously, we're not too worried about Scherzer and Verlander starting the season.
No.
But Senga was nice to kind of see the ghost ball in action. He had a nice strikeout to end an inning today.
And then also Quintana got in and threw a good inning, which I think was nice because I mean he's a veteran too, and obviously nowhere near the level of Scherzer or Verlander, but he struggled a little bit in his first outing. It was nice to see him get out there and throw a scoreless inning.
Yep. Yeah, the rule changes. You'd mentioned that. I know we talked a little bit about them. Um, in the last episode or the one before that. And I was against a lot of them, but man, a 2.5 hour game is
Hmm.
certainly a quick, more enjoyable game to watch. So probably, I would probably enjoy those games like Monday to Thursday or Sunday to Thursday when I have nothing to do. But or when I do have things to do. I'm sorry,
Hmm.
on a weeknight, it'll probably be nice, but. I don't know. They're definitely getting used to it. Obviously, you could see the pitchers and the batters getting in the box with these weird third strike calls and weird base on balls. But I think
Yeah.
once we get into like June or July, like it'll just be like it is any other day.
Yeah, I think Scherzer's like I'm built for this. These head games and stuff. Once the batter uses his timeout, quick pitch him or make him sit there for the full 8 seconds and then throw,
Yeah, I
which
saw he
is
got
great.
called for that the other day. He got
Um,
called for the quick pitch the other day where
yep, and some
they didn't
it,
know.
and some people have been critical of these new rules, like, well, it could cost the game or it could cost a playoff game because the batter's not in the box. I'm like, look, if it's October and you can't get in the box within 8 seconds left, I don't know what to tell you. If you haven't figured it out by then, and maybe something could be a little wrong on the other ends, but that's part of the game, and I do think it's better for the game flow, even um,
Yeah,
of
we don't
just
have to
keeping
readjust. We don't have to readjust our batting gloves in every pitch. I agree. It has gotten ridiculous. It was
correct.
funny to watch Alonso run into the dugout because he knew he was up next in one of the first games, but that he like couldn't breathe by the time he was coming up to bat because he had like sprinted into the dugout.
Yeah, there's a video out there. It's got whenever the Cubs were in the World Series going next to one of this weekend's games, and there was
Hmm.
something like almost an entire half of an inning was played in the same amount of time that a guy threw one pitch between checking
Oh, I
runners.
saw that.
You saw that? Yeah, it's
Yeah, I saw
unbelievable.
that.
So it's not just the the time of the game that's getting whittled down. It's the flow of the game that's important too. That the ball's going to be put in play more. It's going to feel more like baseball. And these criticisms that oh, you must not be a baseball fan. Well, this isn't what baseball's been like for the majority of the history. Even when we were kids watching the game, it moved. It certainly moved quicker, and there wasn't all this cat and the mouse and playing around like Nomar Garcia Parra and on both sides. So I think it's going to be really good for the flow of the game and just to get that better feel as a fan.
Right. Yeah, no, I agree. And obviously the shift being taken away is
Hmm.
huge as well. And you don't
Yeah,
realize like how much that hurts like a left-handed batter way more than a right-handed batter cuz like it's like you don't shift the second baseman to the other side. Like it was
yeah,
literally a lefty who they're shifting over to the right. So those guys were probably costing them themselves millions of dollars because their batting averages were plummeting. I think I saw one stat, which I know you're the stat guy, but they had said for like, I think it was like 15 or 20 years straight, there wasn't one Major League Baseball team that batted under 240. And then last year, there was 12 teams that had a batting average under 240. The year before, there was 11. And then like the previous like 15 or 20, there was like 6 combined with a stretch of like 0 forever. It was
Yeah,
crazy.
Ty Cobb's rolling over in his grave.
Yeah.
As you talk about that, they can, I guess, shift the outfielders. So you could bring in your left fielder, but it's not like you're giving up a single now because you vacated your position. So let's say they do that against Vogelbach, right? He does hit balls to left field. And I would love to see that, though. How fun would it be to watch like Vogelbach go to left field and leg out a triple? That would
funny.
be that would be
he is much skinnier now. I saw that, but yeah, they took the singles out of the baseball game, which is what drives the batting average. So
correct.
They've been they've been plummeting based on that. So yeah, it'll be exciting to get that out of there.
And then the other thing was, that disengage rule for checking the runners is, you could only throw 2 times, but you still could throw that third time. So if you've checked the runner twice and they're getting cute and taking a huge lead, you could still throw over to first or whatever. But if you don't pick them off, then it's a balk. So it does still allow them to hold the runners on. I do like that part. I don't think we were aware of that when we were talking the first time. And
I heard that. I just didn't. I mean, I knew that. I just didn't think many teams are going to take that chance. I mean, that's pretty risky to still do that.
Yeah.
I mean, how many times are you going to be that confident you're going to pick somebody off? But yeah, I mean, I guess you could if they got a massive lead. But I think most of the time. I think most of the time the guy in first is going to stretch his lead for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but yeah, this is good times. Good, early early spring training. We're kind of seeing the baseball classic will kind of throw a little bit, but like you said, we'll be able to see some of these young players, and we'll see where the Mets go from here. We're hoping. This is not a guarantee. Potentially bring someone on to talk a little spring training that is a very passionate Mets fan. So. We'll leave it at that for now.
Yeah.
In case it doesn't come through, I don't want to jinx anything.
No, we don't want to do that. Especially as Mets fans, you don't want to jinx.
No. But yeah, that'll be all Mets talk, and you'll certainly feel the passion.
For sure.
But yeah, that's really all I got today. You got anything else?
I don't think so. I think that's a good talk.
Yeah, well, it's good to be back. I know we took a little bit of a hiatus here, but I was on vacation trying to get out of this Rochester cold and enjoying some warm weather. So we'll get back into it, and we'll have some good conversations coming up.
All right.
All right, buddy.
See ya.
See you later.
Thank you for listening to Rival Sports Pod. Please make sure to like and subscribe on YouTube or wherever you listen to your podcast. You can also email us at rivalsportspod@gmail.com with any topics, ideas, or questions.